Hey everybody, welcome back to Inside the Force. Dave Cottingham here with Hannah Burr. Good evening, Hannah.
Good evening, and how are you?
Doing good. It's been a couple weeks.
It has.
We've both been, you've not felt haven't felt well.
Yeah.
With your trekking around the world.
Yes. Sorry.
How was your trip?
It was amazing. I encourage everybody who has not been to Porto, Portugal, if you have a chance to, you absolutely must go. Mm-hmm. That's all I have to say.
Yeah, there's definitely, me and my wife actually talked about this recently, that there's definitely parts of Europe that we both want to eventually go to, but we're talking probably once the kids are older and gone, we'll do some trips. But
do it. Just take a train ride through Europe or backpack through Europe, and you're all good.
Yeah. But as of right now, I'll stick to my Disney trips. And but I went last week. I went out to San Diego for work. My actually first time to San Diego.
And
didn't really get to see too much because it was kind of an in and out trip, but no, it's nice. I mean, it's everything I've heard. It's a beautiful city. We were right there on the coast there. So the hotel was right there on the bayfront, they call it. So
that's amazing.
Yeah, it was nice.
Did you go to Hodad's by chance?
No. What is Hodad's? A restaurant?
It is this dive place that is absolutely amazing. It is one of the best burgers and shakes I've ever... Well, I can't have dairy or gluten anymore, so I can't enjoy it anymore. But when I did enjoy dairy and gluten, it was one of the best burgers and shakes I've ever had in my life. So Heads up, if you're ever in San Diego, I highly recommend Hodad's. If it's still open. I think it still is after COVID. But highly recommend.
Okay, got it. Yeah, we ended up we went downtown one night at a sushi place and sat outside. It was really nice.
Oh, that's fun. Outside by the beach.
But did you know, have you been to San Diego?
I have.
I guess you have, yes. So I didn't realize I'm watching a movie on my way. By the way, I watched It. Like the first time I've seen It, because it's Halloween, right? So I watched It for the first time, and I got finished, which actually is a really good movie, I thought. Mm-hmm. So as we're descending, I throw up my window and look out, and literally you fly right next to downtown San Diego. The airport. Oh my gosh! I mean, the buildings were right there, and because the airport's just like literally like 15 minutes away from downtown. So when we're sitting outside downtown eating dinner, you just see planes just flying by. I've never seen that before in a city before. I've been in a lot of cities: San Francisco, L.A., Chicago, Atlanta, New York, Miami, Orlando. I've been to a lot of big cities. I've never seen an airport so close to a downtown, and you're just seeing these planes just flying right by. I'm like, this is crazy. Anyway,
San Diego's a great city, especially also if you want to learn how to surf.
Oh yeah, they got big waves there?
Not necessarily, which is why it's important if you're learning how to surf.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
But San Diego's just a cool city. I feel like it's a little underrated compared to other cities. And I'm so glad you were able to experience it.
Yeah. Hopefully I can get there again and experience it more. One of my bucket lists is going to all the NFL football stadiums. Unfortunately, San Diego doesn't have a team anymore, or else that would have been one of my stops and trying to see the city, because they moved the Chargers to LA now. So Anyway, so who knows when I'll be able to get back there, but I'll try to get back there
Someday.
All right, so this is a Star Wars podcast, so we're gonna get into some things here, but I will say, I was telling Hannah right before, this is episode 414, and to be honest, I don't really have an agenda for this episode. This is like complete wing it episode.
I got something.
Yeah, she's got something. I've got a couple things in my head that I just want to throw out there, but this isn't really structured around anything because we're kind of in a void right now of Star Wars, I feel like.
Oh yeah.
And that's kind of partly what I want to talk about. So we'll get into that. But first off, as always, thank you to our patrons for supporting the show as you do. We really, really appreciate it. I'm gonna get back to I've been out of town and things like that, so I'm gonna get back to actually getting some videos up there for you all, because even though we're not doing reactions anymore because there's nothing out there, but I got a lot of stuff I want to kind of share with patrons and do on there. So look for a lot more content here in the coming week. But yeah, thank you to you guys for all the support. Okay, my thing, before Hannah gets in her thing, my thing is that for all of you that are paying attention to the High Republic, Phase 3 kicks off next week. Black label, so the black label of the High Republic, you'll start seeing those on books and comics and things. That's Phase 3, which is the final phase. So, and it's called Trials of the Jedi. I feel like it's called. Yeah, that comes out, and we'll talk about here in the release schedule here in a little bit for some of these things. But we kind of catch up in time. Phase 2 was even further back in time, about 150 years before Phase 1. Now we're coming back to the events after Phase 1, so a lot more about Avar Kriss and the current incarnation of the Jedi that we've seen in Phase 1, and then of course the Nihil and Marchion Ro and things like that. So
as soon as you say that, though, I'm like, wow, we're really behind when it comes to trying to keep up with the novels and the books and the comics. It's like, holy crap. Phase 3 already.
I know. There's a lot. There's a lot that we got to catch up on. And you're a little further than me, I feel like, because I think you've gone through a couple more of the books than me.
But barely.
Yeah.
I think maybe 1 or 2.
Yeah. Yeah, but it's all right. I think there's going to be some time to get caught up before anything. I mean, I guess the beauty of it, for those of you that are keeping up with it, by the time this wraps, which will be, I think the last thing is sometime in March, maybe? Yeah, towards the end of March.
I was about to say, it's next year.
Yeah, it's March, I think, is the last novel, but you'll, if you're keeping up and you follow along all through that, you'll get through all of it by the time the Acolyte comes out, because the Acolyte is set during that time period, right? So if there are, which I don't know how much they're going to reference anything of this content, I can't imagine them relying on everybody reading all these books or all these comics to follow along on the show. But there could be some aspects of it,
I feel like there's one, because remember there was that one actress, I can't remember her name, but both you and I thought
you're right.
Yeah, she looked like Avar
No,
Kriss.
there is somebody. Yeah. Oh, I don't know about Avar Kriss, but they have confirmed that there is a character from the books in the show.
Oh, No.
Yeah, and I can't remember. It's the one from the comics, I think. I got to look her up, but there is somebody from the High Republic comics, I believe, that's in the show.
Oh, that's cool. No,
Yeah.
I was referring, there was an actress in the lineup where they said, oh, these are all the actors in here. One of them looks like Avar Chris.
Actually, I think I remember that now. Yeah, but I don't think that's been confirmed or not. So
Oh,
that
it
could be a
hasn't.
surprise. Yeah, it could be a surprise for us.
Yeah. It's a rumor, but the fact that someone is confirmed from the High Republic to be in this.
Yeah, it's the. I believe. Do you remember when we covered the first couple volumes of the comic? I think it was the apprentice to Skier. I think. You know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
I think she's in it.
Shoot, what's her name?
I don't remember.
Hang on.
But I think she's in it. Don't quote me on that until you look it up, but I believe she is.
Rebecca Henderson will play High Republic character Vernestra Rowe.
Oh, that's okay. Then that's who it is.
That's what I'm seeing according to StarWarsNet.com.
And I remember
Newsnet.
her name. Newsnet, yeah. I remember her name. The actress. Yeah. What's the character's name?
Oh, I just...
Oh.
Venestra Rowe.
Is it Venestra?
Venestra. Okay, wait. It's a High Republic.
Yeah, there she is. Venestra Rowe.
Rowe.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
That's her. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So she's a Jedi, though,
Vern.
right? Yes.
AKA
Female
Vern.
Jedi Knight. Yes, that's her. Okay, so she is going to be in the in the Acolyte. Apparently.
Supposedly.
Yep.
Remember?
That's what I remember hearing. Okay, so anyway.
Yeah. But remember, Marok is just Marok. So...
Yeah. Well, Marok wasn't in anything else.
I know, but it's the whole point of, like, don't blow it up to what it could be. Just accept it for what it is.
Yes. But there's some connectivity that they are doing. It doesn't matter. I guess it doesn't matter. I think she was, so she's in the time period around phase 1 and 3. She wasn't in phase 2. So I think we're going to get obviously an older version of her, a little bit older version of her, because Acolyte takes place a little bit closer to, a little bit further down the timeline, a little bit. But so anyway, there's that phase 3 is the coming of the High Republic. So so there you go. Here we see, we're winging this thing. So okay, before I go through some release dates, Hannah's got a rumor that I actually feel like this rumor, I was just looking it up too. This rumor's been around possibly for a little while, but it's kind of come back around. Yeah. So what you got? So
let's be very, very, very clear. It's a rumor. There's nothing confirmed. Yes. Nothing at all. But it does raise quite the topic of conversation. So the rumors are that Keanu Reeves is in The Acolyte, which in and of itself is very cool. I love the idea of a John Wick aspect coming into this world. I think that would be awesome. But the rumor is that he's playing Revan. And we're talking about the Revan from Knights of the Old Republic. I don't know if this was spawned out of some fan art. I don't know if this is rooted in truth. But that's the rumor. So then it brings up a question of, is this just a cameo of Revan, or have we totally changed the story of Revan as we know it from the non-canon, which I wish was canon, Knights of the Old Republic? Like, what does this mean if it were to be true?
Right. Mm-hmm.
If that makes any sense at all.
No, it does. Revan in Legends, was around the time. This is like, I think I remember, if I remember correctly, it's about 4,000 years before the original trilogy.
Mm-hmm.
So we're talking about, when you're talking about, Knights of the Old Republic, we're talking way, way far in the past.
Before even Darth Bane. We're talking before then.
Yes, yes. But in canon right now, Revan is canon.
Yeah.
We just have no idea what time period he's canon in. Because right now, the only thing he's been technically, the only time he's been mentioned in canon is the Clone Wars. There was actually a deleted scene, so you may not have to count that or not, but he's mentioned in the book Shadow of the Sith.
Mm-hmm.
And in The Rise of Skywalker, there's carvings of old Sith characters in the markings on Exegol, and Revan is one of those markings.
He is.
Right? So that is really the only canon reference we have right now. Now, there was an announcement a while ago about the Old Republic, Knights of the Old Republic, getting a remake, the game. And I remember, obviously, and I'm one of those ones that I got excited about the canonizing of this series or this time period, because again, that time period we don't have anything from canon-wise.
Oh, there's so much. There's so much. If they would just make it canon, there's so much.
Yeah, and there was obviously rumors too when Benioff and Weiss, the guys that created Game of Thrones, were attached to doing Star Wars movies, that maybe we were going to get some Old Republic movies from them, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you have, and that's the thing, is right now on StarWars.com, we talked about this before, there's a section on there where they highlight the eras of Star Wars. They've created these 9 eras, and one of them is the Old Republic. But again, we're getting movies, maybe the Dawn of the Jedi, New Jedi Order, and we have material from all the other ones. We don't have anything canon from the Old Republic. So
right.
So I guess the discussion that I think we were going to have is do we think Revan, how important or unimportant is the fact that if he shows up in the Acolyte, that completely changes, his a lot of fans, especially yourself, a lot of fans' remembrance of him being in this different time period, right?
He or her, because if you play the game, right. Spoilers if you haven't played Knights of the Old Republic, but it's been so long that I don't feel too bad about this. But whatever character you play, you are Revan. So yeah. Revan could be a female. Like, that was the beauty of the game. It didn't matter who you were or what you looked like, you were Revan. So I don't, like, the thing is, I don't mind them solidifying this is who Revan is. And in fact, you kind of need to, especially if you're going into Old Republic, you're going to bring back Revan. Revan is clearly part of canon now. But if you throw him into Acolyte, I don't. The only way, if you're going to respect what people already know, the only way I could see this happening is if you see Darth Revan in a Sith holocron, or if you see Jedi Revan in a Jedi holocron. And maybe that's like a tip of the hat to this is who you play in Knights of the Old Republic. And then we see Keanu Reeves be Revan in the game Knights of the Old Republic. And that could be why they're waiting.
That's actually a good point. Yeah.
I mean, that is the only logical thing I can think of. But then again, you and I have had logical thoughts of like who Marok or Merrick,
Marok, yeah.
Who they were, and
right.
Turns out it was nothing. So it could just be nothing. It could be they're like, you know what? Revan is a part of the Acolyte, and that's that. But then again, wouldn't you include Keanu Reeves in the initial cast lineup that you released?
Not unless they see, that's a good point, because you could have had it written in the scripts early on that it's just Revan that shows up. And so you have, like you said, because I believe, I think I'm going down the road that you just stated. I believe they'd be foolish to take Revan out of the Old Republic timeline.
Absolutely.
Because I feel like he's going to be a very important part of the creation of the Sith. Because in the era timeline on StarWars.com, it says it's the only era that just has text. It doesn't have icons of like any movie or TV show associated with that era. And underneath the whole Republic, it just simply states, the Republic is founded among the worlds of the galactic core, and the Jedi Order emerges to protect it. A schism within the Jedi leads to the creation of the Sith in this epic era. So you could, at some point, either in the game or if there's a series that comes out or a movie that comes out, we're probably going to end up seeing some form of this story where where do the Sith come from?
Well,
right?
The Sith, when you play Knights of the Old Republic, there's an academy for the Sith.
Sure, yeah. What I'm saying is that they've established at that point in time, 4,000 years, there is already the Sith.
Oh, okay.
But we don't know when it started. It could have been a couple hundred years before then, or
I was about to say,
it's still in that era, right? They're still in that timeline.
If you're about to say that was the creation of the Sith, I would be like, oh.
Well, what I'm saying is that that's the part of the timeline I believe that they are going to establish in that era, is that how the Sith was formed.
Gotcha.
So they could change the timeline a little bit, that 4,000 years before A New Hope, that's when the Sith emerged somehow. Mm-hmm. And Revan was possibly a part of that, is what I think they might end up doing.
No.
Why? What's wrong with that?
No, the whole beauty of Revan is that he, she, they... The whole purpose is that the war was, like, everyone was fighting against each other, and they thought they could help save the war. They thought they could do that, and that was their fall into the dark side. And like, they didn't help form the Sith. The Sith was already established before they became Sith.
Sure.
Like, so I don't like the idea of Revan being a part of the birth of the Sith. I don't.
See, I think if
I don't like that.
I think if he or she is, I think if there's a story there that they were a Jedi first and fell to the dark side, and that was like the first person to do it, I think that's pretty cool storyline that we need to
But
see.
it's them and another person, because this other person looks at you and they're like, oh, da, 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 da. Like they act like they know you and you don't have your memory. So you're like, what are you talking about? Who are
Well, yeah,
you?
I know. I think that was necessary for the game. So now, again, like you said, if it's a game, then yes, there's probably some aspect of that they'll keep in. But I'm thinking if they make a series or they make a movie about this, I don't think you can go down that path of the memory thing. I think, but again, that's only if they treat this as Revan was almost the first Sith in a sense, and he's the one that started because that's the thing you got to think about when they hinted at this on Exegol. There were a couple of I think there were even a couple other people on there.
Yeah.
So it's like why is it them? Obviously they are probably very important to the birth of the Sith. That's why they're there.
And here's the thing. I think there's a very unique difference between the two of us, and I almost don't want you to play Knights of the Old Republic at this point. Even though
I'm pretty sure I won't.
it's one of my favorite games ever. But the reason is because I'm so rooted in that story, and for me personally, that's one of my favorite games ever to play.
Sure.
That there's that stubborn, nostalgic part of me that doesn't want that story to change, and yet you, who hasn't played the game, you're like, yeah, that could totally change. That could be X, Y, and Z, and I think that's very refreshing. It's just so hard for me to let that go.
But see, now you're speaking also how people feel about the Thrawn trilogy. That is now...
That was so hard for me to let go too.
Well, see, that's what I'm saying. So, I mean, that's just the reality we live in, right? Those stories aren't canon anymore. So you have to find a way to canonize it and fit it to make it relevant to the timeline that we do know. And right now, the timeline that we do know is that all we know about the Sith, truly, the infancy of the Sith is Palpatine. That's really our story. The only reference we have before that are some just darts, right? Like we know Darth Bane was around at some point and started the Rule of Two. We know that again, in the High Republic, there hasn't really been Sith, but we're going to get some type of Sith story in the Acolyte. So we don't really have anything and we have texts like this that the creation of the Sith started back then. I think there are references in some books about the Jedi-Sith War, back then. So
even in the Thrawn original trilogy, the Thrawn Ascendancy trilogy, they talk about the Jedi-Sith War.
Yeah, and I think in Rebels it was mentioned a few times too. So, we know about these things. We just don't know when they happened. We don't know who was involved. So I think with these eras now, like Dawn of the Jedi, the Old Republic, I think that is a story that they're wanting to tell, is the origins of the Jedi, the origins of the Sith. How did this battle that's lasted centuries, thousands and thousands of millennia, how did what we've come to know in this timeline between the Skywalker saga basically is how did this conflict of the Sith and the Jedi, where did that come from?
Yeah, and
I think that's cool to tell. And then of course we're going to get beyond what Rey does later on with the new Jedi Order.
And the more and more you talk about it, even though I want to see this world where we have a Sith Academy and a Jedi Academy, and I want to see all of that, the more and more you talk about it, and the more and more I think about Revan and their fall to the dark side. Unless you create a new character, I don't know if you can pick another character who can quote unquote be the beginning of the Sith.
Yeah, because Revan is so popular, right?
So popular, and I think it's also very empathetic because their fall to the Sith wasn't born out of greed or lust or the desire to keep someone alive, or like there were so many good intentions behind it. It just was directed the wrong way.
Interesting.
And I mean, you can look at it at the opposite way of like, oh, that was really selfish. That was just really impulsive and irrational. But if you look at it from their perspective, they genuinely thought they were doing the right thing at the right time.
So it kind of sounds like Anakin.
Exactly. So, and that's what makes Anakin so empathetic is like, wow, you had all the good intentions of the world. You were just misguided and you made the wrong choices. And I think that's honestly what Revan did. So, I mean, I personally hate to say it, but if you are going to pick a character that's already popular among Star Wars fans who you're going to claim is going to be the birth of the Sith, I guess Revan is your person. I guess I hate to say it. I'd like to think that we see the birth of the Sith in the movie of Dawn of the Jedi. I think that would be way more interesting.
Yeah, I don't know how far back. I mean, obviously, Dawn of the Jedi is going to be back like 25,000 years.
Exactly, but it would make so much sense if the Sith were born at that time. Or maybe the Sith just weren't in the spotlight until Revan came along. I don't know.
Well, yeah, and I think I think it really depends on where they're placing the Old Republic timeline.
Yes.
Because during Dawn of the Jedi, even though we're 25,000 years, I've got to believe that there's a republic already. Like the Republic's been around for even longer.
Of some kind.
So why is that not called the Old Republic? You know, what maybe it was called something else. And they turned it into the Republic later. Because there's the Old Republic, and then which I've kind of questioned too a little bit. I know the era is called the High Republic, but I don't think they call it the High Republic, right? I think it's just still the Republic during that time.
I think the only reason why it's called the High Republic is because that's when it's at its highest peak.
Height. Yes, it's at its height. Yes. Yeah. So the Old Republic is probably not but they mentioned, like, I think they've even mentioned, like, I think they've mentioned in shows or something like that, the Old Republic. Like, they refer to the time, a certain time that Republic was the Old Republic. So we just don't know what time. We'll have to pay attention to that and see what happens there. But I agree with you. I think it's like Thrawn. It's almost like Thrawn. Like you couldn't create a different character and kind of have the same impact. You know, you had to bring Thrawn in at some point. And I think Revan's the same way. You know, you can't establish a new character and expect to get that kind of acceptance from the fans when someone like him is him or her is somebody that we want to see in canon, and we want to get that story. I mean, it's kind of like Bane. I want to see something with Darth Bane too. You know,
Please.
So.
I mean, here's the thing. I, at the very least, I hope that Revan appears from a holocron. That's all I hope.
I think so. Well, okay, this goes all the way back to what I was saying was, I think what could have happened is they wrote Revan in as a holocron in the Acolyte. But then they didn't have Keanu cast yet because they were just getting into it. And as they got to talking to people, and then Keanu possibly could have came on board, and they're like, well, we can't just hide him. We have to show his face.
Well, in canon, Revan wears a mask. The only way you identify Revan is his purple and red saber. That's how you identify Revan.
Right. So maybe now that they've casted him, maybe they will show his face in the Acolyte and a holocron, but then now he's the likeness of Revan in the game. So that's why they've delayed the game, because they are now establishing Keanu as the likeness of Revan. Now that makes sense to the delays we've seen and possibly the rumors that he's involved in this.
And if that's the case, I'm A-okay with that.
I'm totally cool with that. Like you said, Keanu as Revan, jeez, that's crazy.
There's some John Wick fantasies people are going to live out.
Yeah. Nah, yeah. Plus the martial arts that he knows from the Matrix and being able to wield lightsabers. I mean, come on, man.
The thing is, at first I was like, what? You take away the ability for people to choose who Revan is in canon? Like, what are you doing? And then the more and more I thought about it, I was like, you know what? That's pretty cool.
Now, and this usually doesn't mean anything, but sometimes it does.
Yes, this is a rumor. We need to emphasize that.
What I was about to say, though, I think what lends itself to this possibly being credible, sometimes it doesn't matter, sometimes it does, but Carrie-Anne Moss is in the Acolyte. So it's possible she called her friend Keanu and said, hey, you need to be a part of this, right?
I didn't even make that connection before.
Yeah, she's in it. So there you go. How cool is that to see them in a project together again? What
if she's the one who opens the holocron?
I know, right? There you go.
Oh,
yes. What? Yes.
And then watch that not happen at all. Watch.
Because Marok is just Marok, right?
Watch it be Keanu be in this like poster, like an Uncle Sam poster, but it's him as Revan going, you can serve your republic.
Right, exactly. Yeah, no.
Come join the Jedi Order.
Yeah, I know it. We can always hope, but
yes.
See, so this ended up being more of a Revan episode than anything. So.
And what's wrong with that?
There's nothing wrong with that.
No.
There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. No, good stuff. Really good stuff. I feel like we could talk a long time about that. And I'm excited. I'm excited about that era. I'm excited. Anything to do with, Jedi, of course, but like Jedi, more Sith, and just the explanation of how all that happened. I mean, I'm all for that kind of stuff.
Absolutely.
Because I think, I think I've talked about it on the show, and it was probably, you weren't really doing the show with me then, but one of the things that I said on here that I wish they would have done in the sequel trilogy, and I don't know if you remember if I've ever told you this or not, but instead of Palpatine coming back and reestablishing like Star Destroyers and stormtroopers, like why didn't he train a bunch of Sith Knights and reestablish the Sith warriors from back in the Old Republic? Can you imagine if you had Luke with his new Jedi Order against Palpatine and his Sith army? It's like, I mean, that would have been the best sequel trilogy. But,
that would have been amazing. I just woulda, shoulda, coulda,
Yeah, of course. No, of course.
No,
but that's because we, it was just the sequel trilogy gets, at least for me too, it gets the bum rap of being kind of a repeat original trilogy. You know, you're kind of getting the same beats and the same.
Yeah.
And and that's what was the beauty of the prequels. He gave us something new, something we haven't seen before. We haven't seen the Jedi before. We hadn't seen the Clone Wars. So in the sequel trilogy, I would just wish we got something we hadn't seen before.
Even
we
if
just
we
haven't
saw
seen
the Knights of Ren in action. Even if
even so. But you know, I would say you have to give them lightsabers. You should give them lightsabers.
Yeah, I
But-
mean, I know that they're technically a cultist group.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
no, but I also feel like Palpatine's too married to the rule of two.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I would have made it established that didn't work, obviously.
Oh,
So
you would have.
I need to go back to how we dominated the Jedi before, which was having a Sith Empire. That's why I would have done it that way. Yes, the rule of two didn't work in the end. It didn't work.
Oh, that would have been really cool.
Right?
I see what you're saying now. Oh,
Yeah. What?
I want it now.
What are you thinking now? Yeah, right? Yeah. So, I don't know.
With Mara Jade fighting by his side.
I'm telling you, right?
Oh, and she would have given him all the secrets of the Sith because she. Oh.
See? Yes. But it didn't happen that way.
Oh well.
Oh, well.
Man, now I wanted that.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, trust me, I've wanted that. Yes.
Now I don't like the sequels even more. Thanks, man. Thank
Sorry.
you.
I'm sorry.
No, you're not.
Not really, but yes. So, all right. Let's see. Here's some releases coming up as we get towards the end of this year, which I can't believe 2023 is almost over.
Oh my gosh. December is next month.
Yes. We
Oh,
got less than
no.
2 months now. So like we said, though, the High Republic kicks off Phase 3 next week on November 14th. Actually, in a couple weeks. The Eye of Darkness comes out. That's November 15th. And you got Defy the Storm that, like I said, apparently ends Phase 3, which is March 12th. In the comics world, this past week, you got Star Wars number 40 next week. Darth Vader number 40. The High Republic number 1, Phase 3. The High Republic Shadows of Starlight number 2. That's still part of Phase 2. You've got actually, I think maybe that might be Phase 3. November 15th, you got Dr. Aphra 38 and Mandalorian Season 2 number 6 and Dark Droids number 4. And then there's a Star Wars Visions comic called Peach Momoko number 1. That's coming out November 15th. Don't know much about that one. November 22nd, Bounty Hunters number 40 and Dark Droids D Squad number 3. And then at the end of the month, you've got Obi-Wan Kenobi number 3, the third issue, which, is a retelling of the series in comic form. So those are your releases coming up here in November. Lots of stuff there. Okay, Hannah, I think, since we did spend a lot of time on the Revan thing, we didn't have to wing it that much. But I did want to. One of the things I did want to say was I actually have seen a lot of tweets and some show titles from other podcasts that are kind of where we're at now. Trying to find things to talk about, and because there's no news right now. The actor strike is still going on. But a lot of them were kind of just talking about the state of Star Wars and where it is right now. There's a lot of people that are, not completely satisfied with what has come out, and some people are. Some people are just happy to have something Star Wars. I I don't know. I don't know how much you've thought about it, but I'm just kind of wondering. I mean, the sale of Lucasfilm happened last, in October, but back in 2012. So about 11 years ago, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just over 11 years ago. And since then, which is crazy to think, it's been that long already. But there's a lot of stuff that's come out. A lot. I mean, not just movies and TV shows, but a lot of books, a lot of comics. There's so much content out there. So, I don't know. Again, I don't know how much you've thought about it, but right now, where you are with your fandom, I don't know how well, let me just say this. How well do you think Disney, up until this point, how well have they done with Star Wars, in your opinion?
I mean, I honestly haven't really. It's funny you bring this up because I didn't really think about this until earlier today. And you didn't pose this question to me at all. This just came up naturally for me. Because just bear with me for a second. I was kind of scrolling on social media because I'm getting better, but I'm sick, so I'm taking moments to kind of relax a little bit and rest up. And one of the things that popped up was this article that came out regarding Marvel.
Yes.
And how it's just kind of imploded. Not even kind of. It's completely imploded upon itself. Now there are now sources coming out saying that article is absolutely inaccurate and is not true. I'm not commenting on the factual basis of that article, but it did immediately bring up to mind for me, is that true for Star Wars? So I don't think Star Wars is imploding upon itself, but it has always it's always been a concern for me that Star Wars would be viewed as a cash cow. And while I know that business is important, we're both in the media, industry. We both know how important it is to, you have to make shows to make money. And in order to make money, you need to make shows and rides, whatever it may be. So there is that circular kind of investment going on. And that's always been a concern for me. As soon as I found out that Disney bought Star Wars, I was very worried. I thought it would be too commercialized. I thought it would be, they're just going to try to milk this for all it's worth. Do I feel like they are? A little bit. I'm not going to lie. I do feel like that. I feel like we've been so focused on this one era for so long that I'm just like, okay, for the love of God, can we get something new? Which is why I'm so happy about the Acolyte. It's something refreshing, new, and it's why I was so excited for The Force Awakens. That was something new. And so, back to your question, I'm a little worried because I don't know what these new items are going to be. But I'm at least excited that we're exploring these different eras. I'm excited that we're going to see different points of view, different timelines, different characters. I think that's also why Andor works so well, because I don't think once we saw a lightsaber. We got a different point of view of the Star Wars universe. But even so, we were still stuck in that same era. So I'm tentatively optimistic about Star Wars regarding where we're at right now. I don't know if that answers your question.
Well, what
where
do
are you?
Well, I understand your hesitancy and your concern for the future, but how would you grade how they've done the past 11 years? Like what? Like just in your.
Like, are you talking about S tier, like S A B C D? B, C, D, E.
Yeah, well, kind of. Or just like, where would you place, your level of enjoyment of what we've gotten out of the books, the comics, the shows, the movies,
See, that's
have they missed the mark with you, or have they satisfied you?
I think it's been such a roller coaster that in order to, there are
has there
some
been more
moments where I'm
highs
like,
than lows? Yeah.
yeah, there are some moments where I'm like, yes, this is it. And other moments where I'm like, what are you doing? What
So
is
give me an
this?
example of each of those, if you can.
Okay. Thrawn Ascendancy. Andor. It's up there on yes, this is it. What is this? Would be like, I mean, because I still haven't gone back to watch it, Book of Boba Fett.
Yeah.
It would have to be some of the episodes of Mandalorian Season 3. It would have to be some of the books I've read. I'm like, what? This isn't necessary. What are you doing? Put this money towards something more important. So I would say because of the roller coaster ride I've been on, I'm just going to have to say it's been okay. It's been average. Just to level everything out. It's been average, but I'm very optimistic that that'll change into a higher tier grade due to the fact that we will supposedly explore all of these different timelines within the Star Wars universe.
Right.
What about you?
Yeah, I mean, I'm the one that asked it, and I'm admitting it's a loaded question.
Yeah, welcome to the party, my dude.
Yeah, I think I'm definitely a fan first. Like I've always been a fan since I was younger. I think I've always been just engulfed in this world. I truly do love Star Wars. I mean, it's one of the biggest crushes I've had in my life. I mean, I love
Don't
the
tell
thought
Bert
of it,
that.
the aspect of it. Yeah, well, she knows. And it's not that I love every story. It's not that I love every character. I just love the idea of this galaxy out there, and the idea that these things exist, Jedi and hyperspace and all these different species trying to live, together. Just that idea of itself, because I'm a big sci-fi person, and that's what drew me into it. And then and then of course you throw in the Force and these keepers of the peace, and it's like I just love that aspect of it. So for me, those are the stories that I gravitate more towards. That's why I do like the movies. That's why I gravitate a little bit probably to the prequels, actually, a little bit more, because there's more Jedi and the aspect of the Jedi falling and the rise of the Sith. Filoni's stuff with like Clone Wars and Rebels, where he really does a good job of exploring the aspects of the Force, really just was blown away by that stuff. Now, most of that stuff you can argue was, I know Rebels came during the first thing that came during the Disney era, but that came from kind of Clone Wars, though. It was kind of a continuation of the Clone Wars, right? So it felt very Lucas still, So I will say that I felt like it started off really well. The Disney stuff. But then the movies happened, and they weren't which a lot of fans, I think, expected them to be. I enjoy them. There's nothing that I definitely enjoy them, and I rewatch them. But I think they tried to, again, repeat what George was doing in the 70s with this new generation. And I just think, and it probably worked. It probably worked with the younger generation. I know it worked with my daughter. But it didn't really work well for like our generation of our age, right?
Right.
Because we wanted something even, I know you said it was new, but even newer. Things that we haven't seen before, characters we haven't seen before. But I get it, you have to, or if it was a Skywalker saga, it should have been still more about Han, Luke, and Leia and stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, but I think for me, where I think, and again, this is complete like preference on my end, but I feel like in this era of what they've deemed this era as, which we're spending the majority of this time in, they call this reign of the Empire, right? Which is like Bad Batch and Solo and Obi-Wan and Andor,
right?
And Rogue One and Rebels. Like this where the majority of the content we've gotten. Sure, we got Resistance, Star Wars Resistance, and Mandalorian and Boba Fett and Ahsoka were kind of post New Republic, what they call the New Republic. But in that era of reign of the Empire, so that's my point. You're getting stuff from the New Republic, you're getting stuff in reign of the Empire. I almost feel like, again, this is completely, people may not agree with me for sure about this. I almost feel like we're bouncing around too much and not in not in a linear fashion.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
I feel like they would have done better by saying, we're going to start here and we're going to end here, or go in this direction with these type of stories. And then if we're going to go out of order, we need to go into a whole different time and then go in linear order in that time. Right? That's why it's a little confusing. Now we haven't totally dived into it, but like even the High Republic is a little confusing for me. Like, why did they do phase 2 even further back?
Yeah.
And, there may be a logical explanation that I don't know why they did that, but even that is a little weird because they're bouncing too much. It's why wouldn't you go in a linear fashion first? Anyway, so I don't know how much that really, because I do feel like people, especially that aren't Star Wars crazy like we are, it's hard for them to wrap their heads around when this takes place, when that takes place. Because even when I talk to Martin on our other show, there's times when he's like, well, but that can't happen because he's here. And I'm like, well, no, he can, because that takes place way over here. And he's like, he still hasn't really gotten it down. So someone like my daughter or my wife, who just occasionally comes, there's no way she can wrap her head around this kind of stuff, right?
I completely agree with you. And I think that's what made Marvel work, is that they made it easy to follow.
Yes, 100%.
That's what made it work. And with that, you're onto something, man. The fact that everything is done out of order, it's like, wait, when does what take place? Oh, that throwaway line, that gives me context. Okay, now I know where this takes place. Instead of, and yes, you could sell books saying, here's the timeline. That doesn't help your average viewer who's not going to shell out, $50? And I think I'm being generous when I say $50 to just gain this knowledge of when takes place at what time. Like,
yeah.
No, you're onto something. That could be why this feels so disjointed.
Well, yeah, because there's no, and I'm not saying every story has to connect, but
right, but there needs to be at least some sense or some very clear timeline. And I'm not saying like flash it up on a billboard, but don't have it be involved of some throwaway line.
Very true. Very true. Yeah.
No,
So
you're
anyway,
onto something.
so that's kind of my feeling with it. I'm like you. There's definitely been hits and misses with the books. There's been hits and misses with the comics, and there's been hits or misses with the shows. I mean, when you put out this much content, you're never going to get the best stuff. You're going to get an ebb and flow of content, but the bottom line is I'm grateful that we even get anything, because honestly, when I walked out of the theater of episode 3, I thought that was the last thing we were ever going to get of Star Wars.
Oh, seriously?
Well, I mean, that was his saga. He completed his saga 1 through 6.
Maybe I was too young at the time.
You were, because it took 18 years for episode 1 to come out. So
yeah,
there's no way, because I mean we were waiting 18 years to get the continuation of the original trilogy.
That's insane.
And he talked about how this was Anakin's story. Well, Anakin died in episode 6, so after that it was like, when the rumor started happening that, oh my gosh, he's thinking about doing a live action show, but of course that never happened. And then all of a sudden this animated show pops up. And he went with that first, but to see how that was going to go. So then there was hope that, okay, we may get some Star Wars, but we didn't think we were ever going to get movies again, really. So anyway, so the fact that we're getting that stuff now, and the fact that we're able to sit here and talk about Star Wars, it's pretty fun. It's pretty incredible.
It is.
So, okay, that's all I wanted to kind of get your feeling on. So let us know how you all feel about Star Wars these past 11 years.
Please do. We'd love to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, I want to hear how happy or how sad or how people are. I mean, I think most of the people that listen to us are in it like we are, but you never know. But so anyway, so our last episode where we ranked our shows. We had some, obviously we had some comments from here on YouTube here. Thrawn Addict says, thanks for the comic updates. You keep well informed of what's coming out. Looking forward to Mace Windu and Jango Fett comic series. Will be awesome to find more out about these characters. Ranking Star Wars series is tough for me, but I'll give it a go. So his ranking.
Okay.
Number 7, Book of Boba Fett. Mm-hmm. Number 6, Mando Season 3.
Uh-huh.
Number 5, Mando Season 1. Number 4, Obi-Wan Kenobi. Number 3, Ahsoka. Number 2, Andor. Number 1, Mando Season 2.
Why season 1 so low?
Because he likes the other ones better. He said, if you would have told me an Obi-Wan show would be ranked 4th before that came out, I would have thought you were crazy. But just think they missed some things throughout the series. Totally agree. I had to look back. I can't. Well, did I have my list somewhere? Yeah, I had my list. I had Obi-Wan number 1, Andor number 2, Ahsoka number 3, season 2 of Andor number 4.
Now remember, even though we're in the business, we chose based on what we liked, not what we objectively think.
Not quality. Not like the best. It was our favorites.
Like, for example, the FNAF movie, Five Nights at Freddy's movie that came out. Is it a good movie? No. But as a FNAF fan, did I love it? Absolutely.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
So, that's the comparison here.
Yes. Amanda, she says, hi, I didn't get a comment in last week, but I wanted to say I did read both new canon Thrawn trilogy books. Maybe I'm misremembering how the last trilogy ended, though. Possible spoilers. If I remember correctly, the Ascendancy sends Thrawn to infiltrate and evaluate the Empire.
Yes.
And Thrawn accepts, as he has to do some level of exile, since there were too many military powers trying to bury him. which to me doesn't correlate a desire for taking over the whole empire in the emperor's stead. But then again, if he was the head of the empire, he could guarantee the galaxy at large wouldn't be hostile to the Chiss. We'll have to see.
Yeah. So sorry, that's been spoiled for you, man. But
that's all right.
Yep.
Well, I knew how he ends up. I knew he gets into exile, and
but
that's in the.
Yeah. It's not by choice, and it's not out of determination of dominating the entire galaxy. It's just how can the Chiss survive, and that's the best way, because otherwise he would be imprisoned. So they're like, let's just put him into exile, make everybody happy, and it'll benefit us.
Yeah, interesting. That's how he ends up in the Empire. Basically, he gets found by Imperials.
Yep.
So she does rankings. I'll do my top 3.
Oh.
So she has tied for a second. So she has two seconds. Tied for a second is Mando season 2 and Obi-Wan. And then her number 1 is Andor.
Okay.
So I like that. She says Andor is just so well written. I love having Jedi in my Star Wars, but everything going on in Andor is so compelling, I didn't even miss it.
Yeah.
Obi-Wan and Mando season 2 gave us such wonderful and stunning fan moments. I could watch Luke taking out droids 1,000,000 times and still love it. Same with Obi-Wan facing off with Vader, just so powerful.
Great moments.
We actually have a new comment. I don't know. There's no name, so sorry if you're listening. You're at Wooden Railway Productions 4132. So thanks for commenting. This is great.
Thank you.
Yeah, they put on their list. They basically just ranked the 5 shows. Okay. Number 5, Book of Boba Fett. Mm-hmm. Number 4, Obi-Wan. Number 3, Ahsoka. Number 2, Mandalorian. Number 1, Andor.
Okay.
And they say a lot of people like to seem to put Obi-Wan at 1 because of fan service. Episode 4 was the worst episode, and the show was strange. Has strange choices that bring it down to number 4.
What was the 4th episode of that? Now I'm curious.
How many? I can't remember how many episodes there were. Was there 6 episodes?
I think so. Obi-Wan TV show episode. No, now I gotta know. Oh, it's just part 4. Obi-Wan and Tala infiltrate the Inquisitor's stronghold to rescue a captured Leia, third sister, and the remaining Inquisitors attempt to prove their worth to Darth Vader by finally hunting down Kenobi.
That was when he infiltrates the. Interesting.
Okay.
Yeah. Thanks for that. That's great. So there you go. Obi-Wan on their number 4 list, but it seems like everybody's up on Andor. I mean, that's just I mean, we were too, obviously. So
I think if anything, Andor is kind of like a case study where it shows, like, don't get me wrong, you and I both love Jedi. We love Jedi fighting Sith, but you don't need Jedi to make a successful Star Wars story.
Correct. Yeah.
I think that's the case study Andor brings forth. And I hope that encourages Star Wars to, like, once again, love Jedi, love Sith, lightsabers. That'd be fantastic. But don't be scared. Like they did with Mandalorian a little bit. Don't be scared to go into those other worlds where we don't have that. You can still make that Star Wars. Star Wars isn't defined by lightsabers. It's defined by...
And that's why I liked... you don't really, but that's why I liked Rogue One a lot. And that's why I liked Solo a lot. Because
I love Solo.
Yeah, I know you don't love it. I know you don't love Rogue One. So, but you know the characters, the stories in there. I mean, I think those were really compelling, even though they didn't have lightsabers. So
yeah,
lightsabers help. but
They help, but
they don't have to be the whole thing for sure.
They could be your MacGuffin. We'll leave it at that.
Nice. Very nice. Yeah. Okay. Thanks, everybody. I thought this was going to actually be a short one, but it ended up being a long one. So good job, Hannah.
Yeah. Thank you. You texted me earlier this is going to be a short episode. It's going to be short. I'm like, no, it's
again,
not.
I thought I was going to have to wing a bunch of stuff to get the length on this thing, but that's great. Good talk. We always talk Star Wars. Thanks, everybody, for listening and watching. Of course, thanks to our patrons. If you're interested in supporting the show, patreon.com/InsideTheForce. We're there. Go to youtube.com/InsideTheForce or at InsideTheForce now. They have the at symbol now, too. And we got some good shows lined up. We got a good interview show that was going to happen now, but it's going to be a little pushed back later because who we're going to talk to is actually got another Star Wars project coming out next year. So can't wait to do that. And
so
some more, some more Beyond the Sagas and council sessions are in the works too. So we'll do. And we got to do some of those now because we don't got any really Star Wars stuff to talk about too much.
We got a list,
so we do. So anyway, thanks everybody. Appreciate all the support. Keep coming back. I know the holidays are coming out, but, as long as Hannah's game, we're going to keep getting some shows done here. I'm not going anywhere. I'm out of vacation time, so I'll be around. Man. Yeah, I'll be around. You're going to be gone for a little while. So I'll, so we'll see. Hope everybody had a great Halloween. If you're... Next thing is Thanksgiving. If you're in the States, I guess it's Thanksgiving's next. And then, of course, the holiday season with Christmas and all that. So anyway, come back. Keep coming back. We'll be here. Check us out on YouTube and Patreon. And let us know how your Star Wars experience is going right now. Because it's going to be a little long right now until we get something else. So,
but hey, we're here together.
We're here together. Hannah, thank you so much.
Thank you, Dave.
Take care, everybody. We'll see you next week. May the Force be with you.